Thank you everyone for coming to this invitation. I didn't expect to have a full room today, and even more. I don't know if there's extra seats if anyone wants to come in. I'd like to take the opportunity, maybe I will bring some videos on screen and share with you about what has been the latest happening at Sandbox. So just here, okay, I will put that here. I want to take the chance to answer any of your questions. I will share with you, first of all, some of the recent announcements that we've seen at Sandbox since the beginning of the year. So you get a rough update of where we are, what we've done, some of the major partnerships we've been announcing in the space, and some of the first results as well we've seen since we just ended the Alpha Season 2, for example. Everyone is familiar with what is the Sandbox already in the room? Anyone has played at the Sandbox and the Season 2 in the room? All right, great. So I'll start maybe with just a teaser video. I don't know if there will be sound here of the Season 2, which is the latest gaming event we had. If you haven't played it, don't worry, there will be more events to play and engage with. This was live from beginning of March until last Friday, so a full month of activities with 35 experiences to be played, more than 200 quests. It included 18 experiences made by us, diverse experience, social hub, single-player games, multiplayer games. There was also 3 experiences with major IPs and brands, so including Snoop Dogg Mansion, including Blondish, which was a host DJ to the Club XYZ, and she made 2 exclusive songs. And one cultural historic experience by the South China Morning Post, which is a big media from Hong Kong, where players could engage into historical Central Ferry Pier of Hong Kong, discover it through time, age, and solve puzzles. There was also 4 experiences made by the community, as supported by our foundation in the Game Maker Fund, and about 10 experiences made by players and creators. So it just finished. We have been giving out almost 9 million sand in reward. So as of today, I believe it's almost $30 million that's been distributed to over 10,000 users who engage, who were the lucky winner as they were participating. We had more than 350,000 active users during this month who actively played into the Sandbox. We are now more than 2.3 million registered users with a wallet. So Sandbox continues the growth in terms of like adoption and engagement. The landowner community as well is now more than 20,000 unique landowner. Thinking back a year ago, we were at 4,000, so definitely a great growth into the community of people who own a piece of the metaverse and will develop content. Before I jump into some of the announcements, recent partnership announcement, I want also to invite you to go see the Sandbox Street, where downstairs in the show floor, where you get a chance to meet with 4 builders in our ecosystem. This is just an overview of the many of them. I think we're close to 100 different studios around the world that now are building experiences, content for themselves, for different landowners, and for IPs and brands as well. And it's really interesting, the kind of diversified experience and content they are doing. It's not just game on one side or, I don't know, art gallery or museum, but we're seeing like love game, we've seen like games with IP like Smurf, Avenged Sevenfold, Elements. We have a great variety, including like for marketing agencies, for a lot of content, like basically hard to put words on it, but when you see it on screen and etc., it's really interesting how the creativity in the ecosystem and how they've been leveraging the different tools of the platform and how the overall ecosystem has grown around it. So I gave you already some numbers about the Alpha Season 2. I think it's been so far one of the greatest showcase of the possibilities offered by the platform. It's still very early on around like what we believe are the possibilities of the open metaverse. One of these strong possibilities I would like to highlight, and something we've launched during Alpha Season 2, is interoperability of NFTs. So one key difference in the open metaverse versus centralized virtual world is the idea that users truly own their digital assets in the form of NFTs. Those NFTs could be virtual land, could be the avatar that represents the users as characters in those worlds, could be all sorts of gaming assets, equipment, etc. We wanted, and we've been talking a lot about like the idea of like bringing to life any kind of NFTs in Sandbox. We've seen that before in other decentralized metaverse, displaying your NFT, your crypto collectible, your art, interacting with them over Quest has been one of the first use cases that most of us, if you play Decentraland, Somnium Space, Crypto Voxel, we've seen. I don't think very few of us have seen the possibility to take actually a 2D NFT from an external collection and start playing with it as a 3D character directly in Sandbox. And we've done that. We've done two key things. We've first launched the first interoperable collection in the Sandbox. We, in collaboration with World of Women, so we took the 10,000 NFT collection for World of Women, one of the most popular collections that also reflects a lot of diversity and bringing women in the space of blockchain, Web3, etc. We also recently supported them with a grant from our foundation. Over 5 years, we'll be giving them $25 million. And as part of its ongoing partnership and showcasing interoperability, we have brought this interoperability bridge. So any owner of one of those NFTs can then get in Sandbox. It's not a new token, it's really a different representation of your NFT, of a 3D character that then you can use as your avatar to play, to socialize, to interact, to dance, to chat with other users and interact. And now that we've seen this first example of interoperability successful, we are working already with more collections in the space, so you can expect to see soon in Sandbox more and more of like NFT collection coming to life and become playable into the metaverse. We also have launched the Snoop Dogg avatars. So I don't know, has anyone seen about the Snoop Dogg avatars already in Sandbox? All right, so there are some people that are very updated about what we are doing. So the idea is like this is also the very first collection of 10,000 NFTs that instead of being just 2D profile picture or 2D static images were actually minted directly as 3D playable content straight into Sandbox. So we even can skip the interoperability bridge, so they are natively supported in Sandbox and be played with. So the first step was to launch this last month, so anyone could play with their doggies. They are called the doggies or the avatar. They could access into the hub of the experience that was called Snoop Dogg Mansion, and we are going to offer continuous value for the community through the ownership of those Snoop Dogg's avatars. One more thing that we've done, we've shown recently, this one I don't know if you had the chance to see, is Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, Nick.
He launched
how much is my
the very first music clip 100% built with Sandbox and featuring the doggy's avatar as NFTs, so involving players.
$300,000.
So it's at 4.8 million?
Yeah.
Cash.
So I will let you play for 3 minutes so you can appreciate the whole song.
I think it's time for another one. Yeah. I'm Snoop Dogg. In my rhyme, yeah, but rhymes are fresh. I'm Snoop Dogg. In my rhyme, yeah, but rhymes are fresh. Walking through the sandbox with flip-flops on. This reminds me of a hip-hop song. No Instagrams, no TikToks on. You run up on a dog and get bip-bopped on. Back in the days, yeah, they took my songs. But if I get back, then I can live like that. See, we don't cry for spilled milk. I'm Snoop Dogg, baby, and I'm smooth as silk. Every beat I rapped on, that bitch was killed. Every brim I wore, that hoe was chill. I'm standing tall like I'm walking on stilts. Aftermath on blast from the house I built. And that's east to the west, right? The niggas on my team, they say they living their best life. A drug dealer turned CEO, and I'ma show you how to get this dope. Living what I call the way I did it. Doing it my way, that's how I get it. Reppin' the east side, Long Beach City. Keeping it gangsta, it's all I know. No, we gon' throw our setup, and we gon' get our bread up. While I'm on my weed up, in my sandbox with my feet up. We keep blowing trees, all these emergencies, $100 million deals with this cryptocurrency. Spit a hit a did get a man, I got a lot of moves. Used to spend a lot of bread on a whole lot of shoes. Fools learn fast, so I must be the fastest. Took all my classes, learned it by the masters, surpassed all the masters. Now I'm the master. Last thing out there is my doggy style masters. Yeah, I got a habit like a bad habit. Cause doggy style nigga was a motherfucking classic. Am I lying? No, you're not. It was hot, so motherfucker, give me what you got. Now we can get off into some gangster shit. We can laugh, toast a blast. Or you can be a gentleman and handle this shit like you got some class. Living what I call the way I did it. Doing it my way, that's how I get it. Rapping the east side, Long Beach City. Keeping it gangsta, it's all I know. No, we gon' throw our setup, but we gon' get our bread up. While I'm on my weed up, in my sandbox with my feet up. I'm Snoop Dogg, in my rhyme, yeah, but rhymes are fresh. I'm Snoop Dogg, in my rhyme, yeah, but rhymes are fresh. Hit boy, Snoop Dogg.
All right. Quite cool, right? I love it. It's very cool. It has a lot of like tiny details, reference of things coming up. Other like DJ artists, you might have seen Steve Aoki or Blondish inside. Players' avatars and reference to the future virtual concert of Snoop Dogg. And what it leads us to, I think it's like definitely a new form of entertainment behind that started around NFT, started with the tools that are available on Sandbox platform and provide an experience that you can enter inside Sandbox directly. You can play also with your token and cryptocurrency and land, etc., as he talks in the song, but it goes over and now start expanding into like social media, into like launching new music clip, new song, etc. So definitely, we're excited to see how artists can leverage all the possibilities behind of NFTs to engage with their fan, to give value to the holder of their avatar, to the holder of the pass who will access the first concert, to by being involved, to be creatively contributing to expanding the universe of the brand. Typically, so we haven't done it with Snoop Dogg, but we have done it with The Walking Dead, with Beast Quest, and we're going to keep up with every IP game jams where the community can create content together with their favorite artists and those make those content available on land or become even the virtual neighbor of their favorite artist. Cool. So now moving on to some other recent announcements. I think definitely Sandbox has shown that the metaverse offers possibility much beyond gaming into many verticals. So it could be art, it could be culture, but it could be also like music, artists. We've seen brands enter Sandbox since the end of the year, beginning of the year. Adidas was first, then we had Gucci, which joined Sandbox with a Gucci Vault. We had Warner Music Group as well, which acquired a parcel in Sandbox and will be developing its own music theme park, a place where a lot of music fans, music lovers will find activities to do and ways to engage with their favorite artists. And we have recently pushed as well for positioning Sandbox more towards like fashion and lifestyle, with a recent partnership announcement with Ariani. So Ariani is a French company which has been specializing with bringing like luxury brands like Moncler, Breitling, and a few others to be to allow the owner of those content to track them on-chain, have a wallet where they can recognize the authenticity of a physical good. And part of the partnership that we announced is also like, how do we bridge between the physical world, if I own this jacket, this bag, etc., and what potentially can I get from it into the metaverse? So what kind of benefits? And they provide the whole technology behind, so just scanning a special tag on the original goods, luxury goods, enable you to receive virtual goods, virtual content NFTs in Sandbox. So I have a quick video here. I think I can show you. All right, I have it here. Perfect. So this is an example of how we'd like the user experience to be, as simple as that. So you have your physical good, you scan it on your Ariani wallet. It recognizes there will be the physical merchandising and grants you access to a content into the Sandbox platform, such as an avatar, an equipment, or an element that you can then use, and only you, as the owner of the physical good, can use to interact in the metaverse. So there will be this event next week in Paris where you'll be able to put your hands on and try for yourself the experience. So look forward to the invite in case you are in Paris for the Paris Blockchain Week. We also launched, joining the association that Ariani has started with several brands to continue educating around like the possibilities in the metaverse for most luxury brands and how they can interact and define the possibilities for users in the metaverse. And maybe one of the last announcements you might have seen yesterday if you attended the talk from Jan Rogers at Ledger was our collaboration with Ledger to help and to educate more users around security in crypto, the use of Ledger hardware wallets to protect their digital asset, their digital identity, and even their virtual land, as virtual land is valuable. It's the place where your experience will be. So we announced they will acquire a land parcel in Sandbox, which they will be using to create various game and experiences which teach about security in a gamified way, and also that all landowners in Sandbox will be receiving a custom edition key of a Ledger hardware wallet for them to store and connect safely towards the platform and host securely their lands online. So definitely excited as well to reward the community, people who've been from the very early on adopter on the Sandbox platform as landowners typically. Oh, there's quite a show downstairs. What are we missing? And it's one step further to protect the users, as we know, and it's something that true digital ownership is very powerful, but also comes with the idea that you are responsible yourself from the security of your content. And unfortunately, there is also a certain number of like bad actors in this ecosystem, like there's always been in any new technology. So it's not specifically new to Web3. In Web1, like back in the old Minitel or internet days, there was also people trying to scam for fake credit, PayPal or eBay, etc. Sony PlayStation, Club Penguin even had its own scammers, but we believe it's important to take a step further to protect the landowners community. I think I've covered pretty much all the recent announcements, metrics about the alpha, showcasing you again the teaser, the music clip by Snoop Dogg. So the floor is probably yours now for questions. I don't know how we want to organize, just raise your hand, I pick. Let's start.
Nikita Tskaluk from Forbes. First of all, I want to give huge props to you, to the team. I've been a huge supporter even before this metaverse Facebook boom. You're doing amazing work, especially for this UX standpoint and game development. I have a couple of questions and two topics: decentralization and the game itself. The first, and I do believe the most important one, is the question about you being centralized, decentralized platform. So basically you are fully backed up, you're owned by a Web 2.0 company, well-known company, but at the same time it does not ensure that the full ownership is given to all of us. So I'm just asking whether you have some plans of making Sandbox more decentralized in the future. For example, this Decentraland doing, they have their DAO, where people can vote, make some changes. It's another question whether people vote or not, but that is one of the ways. In your case, I do believe there is a company, there are some game developers, etc., who have their own vision. So just trying to understand how this feedback, how all of us, the owners of land, the owners of token, can contribute to the game later on.
Absolutely. But it's a very relevant question. Like, we're effectively pushing for the Sandbox to be fully decentralized over time, but we've chosen a path that also ensure like the platform goes into the right direction and has enough content and experience and brand, etc., to attract a larger number of users before we fully roll out the decentralization. So we started essentially with a player-owned economy. Player-owned economy meaning like users can own all the digital assets that makes the platform. So typically land, avatar, all the content made by ourselves for the brands or user-generated content using the tools. The token as well, Sand, which we didn't talk too much about, but Sand is actually a top 35 cryptocurrency now, one of the leading metaverse tokens. And through the ownership of asset already, you definitely own the content and what makes the Sandbox platform. That's something we cannot take away from you. You do not have yet control over the gameplay and the direction over the roadmap. So that's still a part that is centralized. And for probably until a year or so our goal is to decentralize progressively over the next 2 to 3 years. We will be progressively handing over the full control to the community. How we are going to do that? First of all land will be in the hands of users within the next 2 years. The foundation that's actually providing rewards for creators, providing grants via the Game Maker Fund, supporting the play-to-earn price and the staking reward will also be managed by a DAO, so that will be helping to the community, the holder of land, the owner of Avatar and Sand to take decision, to vote. Whether they do or not, that's another question, like you suggested, but they will have that full possibility. And also participate, submit ideas, proposal actually on chain on like which feature they would like us to develop, etc. And Sandbox will just be one contributor. The Sandbox team, the core team, will be just one contributor among others toward the development of the whole platform.
Yeah.
Decentraland took, and I think it's beautiful to see on one side the 100% decentralization as fast as possible, and what it leads to in terms of engagement, creativity, community, and progressive decentralization as we're doing now, which but will take more time and is a mixed approach.
At the same time, if I got it right, the full decentralization in your case cannot be achieved due to the fact that a certain percentage of the game is owned by VCs who are investing in you. So if like they own like 10, 15, 20% of the company, it also implies that their like decision-making process will have more votes than like all of us here in the room might have like 1% owning like 100 pieces of land.
That's not the case. So right now we have 20,000 unique landowners. VC do not own land differently than regular landowners. And if you look, and there's various reports available from Messari, from Non-Fungible, and a few other sources. They look at the top ownership of lands over the 20,000, and there is not a single landowner that owns more than 1%, to two exceptions. One is the Sandbox Reserve, managed by the foundation itself. We keep about 15% of the map to be allocated, managed in the future by the foundation to future creators, future brands that will be split across the map. And the second is a Japanese exchange called CoinCheck, which is actually aggregating lands for their own users. So it's actually many different users behind, so it's also distributed. VC invested into a company, equity-based, that don't own any of the assets more than any regular users. The company that own the equity actually has business model to develop the platform, but doesn't need to be the only one developing the platform in the future, like I mentioned, and also earn a revenue mostly through the royalties model that split. The royalty model is always split 50-50 between the foundation, so going back to the community and the companies that develop initially the platform.
So basically it implies that only the landowners will have some decision-making power, not like the token owners or...
I think it's, given all the variety of audience that Sandbox has, like we have players, we have creators, we have sand holders, we have landholders, people who are just taking, people who are interested to engage into event without being one of those audience, and players, of course, now. It's difficult to say who should own more. So in a way, we are, and I don't have yet the full answer to that, but I think like it's not going to be just one or the other. It will be a mixed formula that will take into account your sand ownership, your land ownership, and even your current engagement as a creator or as a player. How many hours have you spent? How many quests have you completed? What is the level of your avatar? So I would say it would feel more fair that users who spend more time dedicated to the growth of the platform and contributing towards it have legitimately more weight on the decision of that platform.
Yeah, thanks. It explains it all. And the second topic that I would like also to cover is the game itself. You just named 20k pieces of the land. If I'm not mistaken, a year ago, there was lower number of land pieces, so you were expanding. If I, for example, take a look at the land map itself.
Landowners. So there is 20,000 landowners,
yeah.
But there is 166, 464 lands.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change. It's still
it is still stable from what.
Yeah. The supply of land is it's a square, 408 by 408. Sorry, it's static. Will never change. What has been done is like we've been progressively selling in what we call land sale waves, new portion inside. Last year, I think we were around 55% of the map that's been sold. Today, we are about 70% of the map that's been sold. What's important to keep in mind as well is like we don't have any specific rush to sell lands. So we also want to take the time to progressively help develop that whole world. So like we have quality content, we have the top brands in the world that enter, alongside creators with the most original idea, the most original content, thing that you will not find on other platforms, say the Roblox, say the App Store, or the Steam Store. It is a unique chance we have to develop a whole new entertainment platform that will be different from what we've seen before.
I guess what is concerning me personally is that
Nikita. Just
Maybe,
going to the attention to anyone who has a question.
yeah,
But I hope that answers many other people's questions.
This is the
Yes.
reason why.
Yes.
Yeah, in this case, I mean, I appreciate it. I'm gonna give the floor to other guys. Thank you very much, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have a question regarding some brands like HSBC, AXA, Casino, who is entering the Sandbox today. I was wondering if there were not a risk that they won't build anything on their land. What will happen in this case?
So there is, I think, two questions in this. The first one is like, it's a decentralized platform. Anyone can buy land, actually. Like, we introduced some partnership officially, but land is available on the secondary market, which means that any brand can buy the land by themselves and can build the land by themselves or through one of the existing metaverse builders in our ecosystem to develop an experience. And actually, we have one in the room here, Grow Your Pace, in case you want to ask them any question after on what it is like. If not, again, we have 4 on the show floor. It's interesting because it means like they can build the kind of experience they want, and they can use what we're doing with the season to be inspired by the possibilities of the platform. Now, we're also seeing Sandbox as, again, like a platform that is pushing towards entertainment, about lifestyle, about music, about fashion. That's where we as Sandbox are bringing many partnerships. But we also see like financial institutions, banks, etc. entering the space and looking at how they can interact in a different manner with their customers or users, you name it. It's a chance for them to reinvent as well, to redefine a new way of interacting, because clearly they are not here to sell product. They are not selling insurance, they are not selling you to create your bank account or your wallet there. If we take the example of HSBC, they are probably one of the pioneer banks that decided to step in. I think they essentially stepped in because HSBC is actually a great supporter of sport in the real world. The World Rugby Cup, I think tennis as well. They've been supporting Wimbledon and a few other tennis events. And they see their space, their land as a place where like sport fans can come and interact. But ultimately, it also means that it's contributing to educate the financial system about like digital land, the possibility on it. And we can hope that through that process, virtual land will be recognized as a financial asset that like traditional investment funds, bank, etc. could recognize to the greater benefit of the overall community. And we hope that there will be no empty land. So how do we drive that? That was maybe the second part of the question. By inspiring them with season, by providing templates of content ready to deploy on their land, and by having and educating an ecosystem of builders which might be very much more creative and help those brands to find an original way to enter and create those experiences as well.
Henry from Bloomberg.
Yeah.
Hi, Henry from Bloomberg News. You raised recently $93 million in a round that was mostly led by SoftBank. I wanted to ask you, are you planning to raise more funds this year to continue your expansion into new things in the sandbox? The other question I had, which is related, is how much is the sandbox worth right now? Can you give us an idea? You haven't disclosed that yet. And then the last one is, how do you envision the ownership structure of Sandbox in 3 to 5 years? Do you think that eventually you can become like a spin-off and become a public company, you know, with investors investing directly in your shares, or you just remain private? Thank you.
All right. So that's right, we raised last November our Series B round led by SoftBank, Galaxy Interactive, Liberty City Ventures, and also had investors like Samsung Next or LG Tech Ventures. We are definitely looking at how we can keep growing the Sandbox as a metaverse and compete against like the giant from Web 2 on like the engineering side. So there's 3 key challenges I would say at Sandbox. One is like the creativity and content. The second is technology, and the third is safety. So how do we bring and keep inspiring more and more people, bring some of the top artists, some of the top brands? Definitely there is a strategy around that, and part of the fundraise of the Series B has been devoted to that. It's also involving marketing and how we can grow and attract more mainstream users to be, for the first time entering, create their avatar and potentially open a wallet and start interacting with blockchain NFT. The second is around technology. So I think there is clearly, like the metaverse is a technological challenge in a sense, like how do we concretely build more immersive experience, more social experience? How do we make it more multiplayer? How do we interact with our avatar, with, I don't know, through, we make our avatar become more expressive, being able to do more animation, more dance, more interaction through AR, maybe through VR, maybe, etc. So those are fields that we're looking at and definitely partnering, investing, or acquiring companies that build technology in the field. So we keep pushing forward something that will make it a whole more immersive experience. We also definitely, Sandbox right now is 200 people. It's the double from last year. Last year we were about 100, but still it's so small compared to like what those other Meta, etc., which are 10 of thousands of people or some of the brightest engineers in the world. So how do we compensate with that? One, with the community, and sharing those incentives to the community through the ownership of the asset and the token. And second, through as well, like growing aggressively ourselves, the engineering talent, to bring some of the best minds in the world through hiring and through acquiring as well game studios, game companies in the space. So this is how we'll deploy the capital, and this is how we are going to continue deploying capital through probably a new fundraise this year. To your second question, so I think we are still very far from even considering whether we will be a public company or a private company. From what I see, most public companies, they went public after they had in the hundreds of millions of users, which, well, we are very proud to have 2.3, 2.4 million users right now. So let's talk again in a few years to see where we are and if that's part of the picture. And in terms of ownership, I think I tried to cover a little bit already part of that answer. So my answer remains the same. The idea is like there is users who own the assets of the land, of the sand token, etc. And there is a company with equities that keeps developing the platform and also earn part of the royalties of the platform.
And in terms of valuation?
That valuation, so that has not been publicly disclosed, so can't say.
Why not? Just curious. Why not?
I think it's not the thing we want to emphasize at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Yes.
Mother from Cointelegraph. So my question, you kind of touched upon it a little bit right now with the VR technology. So how do you envision that integrated in the Sandbox? Like, for example, you have Snoop Dogg partnering with you, HSBC, which you said are interested in sports. So, for example, do you envision something like, I don't know if you're familiar with a project like Animal Concerts or something like that, where like you have concerts in the metaverse or sporting events? How do you envision that integrating the metaverse, like in the Sandbox game?
So the first thing is like we bring a certain number of talents, celebrities. We have Snoop Dogg, we have Paris Hilton that was announced, Steve Aoki, Deadmau5. There will be many more artists coming, either through labels like Warner Music Group or directly. And they will have their performance, their virtual concerts. I would call them more like full shows, more immersive, etc. There is also a whole ecosystem of landowners who are building by themselves and would be hosting those directly. And we need to just to provide the tools so anyone, any landowner could make their own show, their own season ultimately. About technology, we're interested into AR, into VR, generally speaking. We think at the moment the technology might not be immersive enough for a long time, or might be too restrictive in terms of like audience, making it more of a niche rather than a mainstream kind of experience. So our first approach is like, how do we make the metaverse accessible just to anyone, from anywhere, from any device? And that started with PC first because of the capability to create and to play with the controls. Mobile is our next target, so making it accessible from anywhere on the go. And then ultimately, and we hope as AR and VR matures, make it also immersive experience in those fields.
Okay. You said PC, mobile. Do you envision the sandbox being played on gaming consoles in the future?
That's also a possibility, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No.
Thank you very much, Sebastien, for your presentation and what you built and you're still building is amazing. I'm the founder of Algae, a platform for tokenizing real estate in the real world, and we're trying to give our asset a local presence in the metaverse. And you said earlier that the lands are becoming like financial asset for traditional investors. I don't know if you have specific advice for how to evaluate and appreciate the value of the land. Is it like a traditional approach, or you have some other criteria and indicators that can be taken into account?
So as I mentioned before, like we have, and I think it's there is already a certain number of actors who have been assessing that question. Actually, there is a market study that showed that the virtual real estate market in 2021 was a 500 million market overall, and Sandbox captured 64% of that market. So in the space of about 1 year, we went from almost nothing to 64% of the market. That's been a significant growth. And we are working with companies like Non-Fungible, Mesari, Metagame Hub DAO, etc., which all have their very own methodology. Some are looking at like secondary price, proximity of lands on the map, which is also important, as we know, into the real estate, location matters. But not only, in the metaverse, also like who are the key communities around it, around your land, who are the builders, what kind of content. It's definitely helpful to set a certain model. At the end of the day, it's still a market driven by supply and demand, and the value of land will grow as we also add the possibility for landowners to monetize and earn revenue over their properties. So that's the second part, I would say, of the economy, since keep in mind that Sandbox platform is still not fully open. Like the creation tools are there, but we open periodically for players during alpha. That's not something we want to keep doing for a long time. Stay reinsured. Like the ultimate goal is anyone can open their experience on their land and start running their own businesses, selling NFTs, selling NFT access pass, or running seasons in a whole play-to-earn model to engage with their community. And at that moment of time, I think like probably the traditional valuation model from the real world will also apply here, since you can measure like the revenue potential, the traffic you get from your property, and put that into actually even consolidate that into like a fund that will own different parcels, start creating like a real estate fund and more. Well,
Can I know?
You really want the 101s. 101 is okay.
Brilliant opportunity. Yeah. Once again, the questions that I have this time is about the game itself. How do you personally consider yourself? Is it still like from the launch, you've been in-game experience, something that, for example, Minecraft is lacking because you're bringing biggest IPs, biggest brands to create their own game inside your platform, or you're considering that that is the first attempt of building the metaverse that will come like in 5-10 years from now, because comparing you to number one competitor in the Decentraland, that is something where you actually feel, if it is a metaverse that will be in 10 years, that you feel more realistic. You can go to like second floor of the bank, like you can get some kind of help there, some kind of service, etc. So it feels like more than our world in a digital sense. In your case, it's more about gaming, it's more about the experience. For example, Snoop Dogg, I'm supporting his project as well, has his own mansion where he's going to get some concert, which is also some kind of attempt to this real life metaverse, but still. Are you going to stay as a game experience, or you're trying to move more into metaverse way of approaching things, companies, etc.?
Okay, so something that definitely sets Sandbox apart is our gaming background. Like we spent about 10 years already, as that's the DNA of the team. Like we created a game studio before, that was the origin of the Sandbox franchise. And we definitely think like gaming is adding a lot of elements that brings the fun, that brings the comeback design as well. Like why would you want to come back, not just come once with your avatar, but actually come back tomorrow and want to explore more. Some of those mechanics, they are very simple and we're familiar with. It's about like quest, it's about leaderboard, it's about competition, or it's like collaboration, I would say like roughly. And we're applying those mechanics towards all sorts of experiences. So Sandbox definitely started as a game, but has expanded as we've seen with many of those partners and content that we showcased into the alpha season into an entertainment platform that includes virtual concerts, fashion shows, art galleries, museums, and we expect many more diverse things that will actually not just come from our mind, but from the mind of our creators. So we want to see emergent gameplay. We want to see things that that will push the definition of what game is and that could fit to broader audience. Hopefully we'll enlarge the overall market of the gamer audience, or what we call the gamer audience, which is roughly now 2.4 billion gamers, towards potentially the 5 billion gamers, 7 billion gamers. We've seen that, like every new technology, like console gaming, but then there's been the Wii, or that the Wii had it more like casual games, even like for elder and younger audience. The smartphone brought casual game, hyper casual game, broadened the spectrum again. And we feel like Sandbox can engage people who never played games before, or into form of entertainment that will go beyond what people think of a game, which is like shooting at people all the time in FPS or competitive esports. Yet, right now, I still feel what we launched, it's an early taste. It's a first overview of the possibilities. We can do much, much more in terms of like mechanics, in terms of like gameplay features, in terms of like the diversity of gameplay possibilities, so that everyone will have fun, whatever they do, dance, whether they chat with others, whether they try to beat each other over the time leaderboard, time competition, parkour, etc. We're very well aware of that. That's our background. So we know that it will take us probably 3-5 more years until we add all the mechanics that will satisfy most of any gamer expectation and as well existing users. Yet, I think I've been very surprised, and we can see that. We can see the overall positive feedback over social media, over what the community has been sharing. All those moments they spent together during alpha, they shared videos of like them getting together with their avatars, following each other, being creative, creative challenges and more. And well, it's fun to watch. I think they are having fun, like genuinely. So that's the good feedback we have, and we'll continue to and that's also something that we're building with the community and improving with the community. So community feedback will help us to get there. We have
more questions.
Yes. Here.
How many questions do we have? One here.
Mine's the last one.
Oof.
Hi Sebastian, Chris here from CEO of NFT Plaza. You mentioned that you're going to be focusing a lot more on play to earn. I was just wondering how big a role that will play in the growth of what you're doing, and how you're going to manage that balance between it being a place where people come to be social and enjoy the experience, and balanced off against those who are just coming to earn.
So first of all, like what we think and what we call play to earn, it's just one early version of what this new business model is trying to establish. We might have seen 1 or 2 games which provide quite a repetitive core loop. You just do over and over the same basic action. And I don't think it should be taken as granted that this is play to earn. This is the same as free to play at the beginning. It's going to evolve. There will be more, as more and more actors enter the space, we're going to see more innovation and ultimately the more polished, improved version of that. With Sandbox, we're already trying to contribute to that. So what play to earn or play and earn encompass is much more than just playing and repeating the same action, like fighting again and again. It's also about like creativity. So it includes all the creator economy and also various activities like spending time to learn new skills and being rewarded for that in the form of tokens, etc. Ultimately, we believe that engagement, whether it's from a brand, whether it's users being engaged with a brand or creators being engaged toward the platform and selling their content or into games, should be rewarded. That's the key stone here that sets the model, and that's where it's really disruptive with what we've seen in Web 2. In Web 2, we spend time, we spend our money, and ultimately we get just the fun part, and we don't own anything, we don't, and we kind of lost the money. We consider it as like, we never thought there was any sort of investment or even spending real value behind. It's not because we have, the technology didn't allow it, but that doesn't mean that because it didn't allow it and we've been growing for a decade, 2 decades like this, and we got accustomed to it, that it has to stay that way forever. So I feel like this new paradigm is really interesting, and it doesn't mean that we cannot have a good balance between fun, between rewards, and also get other indirect value from it, which are not necessarily financial, like learning new skill or socializing, etc. And I would consider it in the way of like the game of life as a game, in the sense like we work, we have jobs. Some jobs provide us pleasure, at the same time a salary. If we are not satisfied, sometimes we have the ability to change job. Sometimes we choose less salary, but new skills, new discovery, etc. And I feel like this is what the metaverse should provide with the greatest diversity of choices as possible.
Thank you.
Sorry. We have a brunch, and you're all invited. So if you have a question, I invite you to come.
Just the ladies.
Yes. And then the brunch. Sorry.
And then.
Julian Galson from Block Leaders. How does it feel to be an overnight success?
Well, I think like I've been saying that quite a few times, but the Sandbox now is like an overnight success that took 4 years. Sometimes some people can say 10 years in the making. So first of all, I think it's just like building up and almost seeing like, if you're a parent, you probably have seen your baby, your toddler, and then you see them grow as teenagers. And the thing that probably should make you the proudest as a parent is like, how did you provide them the way to learn by themselves and become adults in life? And I feel like Sandbox should be seen that way. Like, how do we empower that community, educate it, and make it become its autonomous thing that will keep on living by itself in the future without us at every step of the way. So we're still in that teenage phase right now, so we still need to shape some things, but I hope it will grow into a very nice adult in the future.
Congratulations.
Thank you.